Alright, greetings Kiss Nation. This is going to be a Kiss topic, and this Kiss topic was inspired by Kiss Army things going over the exact same topic. Apparently, Kiss and Doc had like an interview on Pollstar, and it's what I heard about it on Kiss Army Things podcast. It's pretty cool. I wanted to uh, go over it here on my channel as well. So I think this is going to be pretty cool. So let's get into it. Over to PA at Madison Square Garden, a bombastic MC intones those eternal and magical rock and roll words. You wanted the best. You got the best, the hottest band in the world, Kiss. The curtain drops, pyrotechnics ignite, and Kiss launch into the brilliant rock assault of Detroit Rock City. The band members rocking mightily as they lowered onto the iconic stage via individual platforms, which that was a pretty cool thing to see on the road tour. That was pretty cool because in the past when Kiss kind of came down, it's just been on one platform. This tour they had like 3 separate platforms for Gene, Tommy, and Paul to kind of like come down on. I thought that was really cool. It's how Kiss began. So many shows over a 50-year career that spans 24 studio albums, 13 live records, including the quintessential 1975 double LP Alive, and Myrad merchandising and the media products, while the band's final End of the Road tour concluded on December 2nd, 2023 at Madison Square Garden. The End of the Road for live touring, and also marked a new beginning. Kiss debuted avatars at the end of the Garden show on Madison Square Garden screen, but most fans didn't know what to make of it. And yeah, that's true. Like what we saw on the Madison Square Garden show was kind of like, I don't know how to feel about that. Even me and Xander talked about it on one of our Kiss topic videos that we did together. We just didn't know what to make of it at first. 3 years later, with those avatars as the jumping off point, Kiss are forging a new path as the bands won't the next time Kiss is wearing makeup in concert. While will be the initial Kiss Pophouse production, an avatar-based show in a bespoke theater, launching in Vegas in 2028. The production is not yet named out, but show sells it short. Show is not the right word, says co-founding Kiss bassist and singer Gene Simmons, who is never at a loss for words. Ain't that the truth? When you're parachuting into a volcano, I would call it a show. These are semantics, but you know I'm not anti-Semitic. That's another one of Gene's quotes, you know. Manager Doc McGee, who has handled the band since 1995, says this will be a must-see. It's a new form of entertainment. It's very immersive in today's technology. You can do almost anything. It's like we're the Jetsons. Okay. Pophouse Entertainment, the Sweden-based music investment firm co-founded by ABBA's Bjorn Ulvaeus. I think I pronounced that wrong, but apologies in advance if I did. That purchases IP music catalogs, raised an estimate $1.3 billion for its debut fund, according to reports. Pophouse launched ABBA Voyage in London in May 2022. That, as yet unnamed Kiss experience, will be Pophouse's first major entry into the U.S. market. Yeah, I mean, this would be kind of an interesting thing because I'm kind of curious about what the avatars will come out as. I mean, I know what we saw in Madison Square Garden was not the finished thing, but you know, I know that they pushed the avatar stuff back to like 2028, probably just to get all the technology right. There's a positive in that, says Simmons. It's a new world view versus an American view, and Kiss always wanted to be, and is perhaps the most recognizable iconic imagery. Certainly in pop culture, there's Mickey Mouse, and there are 1 or 2 iconic visual images on the planet. So if one of the guys in U2, like the drummer, walked down the street one or two people might say, "Oh, you're a drummer. Oh, you're a drummer." It's undeniable that any of the four Kiss faces will walk down the street. You get a crowd in any country in the world in Africa. Okay. While the thought of a live concert without artists may be anathema to live music fans, the industry's been heading that way for years. The starless Blue Man Group or Cirque du Soleil Beatles love shows have been around for decades, but Tupac, Roy Orbison, and Ronnie James Dio holograms began rolling out in the 2010s. Travis Scott and Lil Nas X Metaverse shows and Fortnite and Roblox were just a few years ago. Okay. Two popular games. Okay, that's cool. As technology rapidly advances, so does the shape of the Kiss production, with avatars created by George Lucas funded visual effects company Industrial Light and Magic at the center. It's been a very good partnership in that Pophouse understands aspects of technology and the possibilities that we are not really adept at, says Kiss guitarist singer Paul Stanley. However, he affirms people will see how much they are part of the show. I don't like the idea of a separation between band and audience, and the idea is not to, and the idea is to integrate both. All right, that's cool. Because I always know that Kiss is like, doesn't like just bridging the gap between band and audience. Like in the reunion tour, Paul would literally fly on a zip line just to be with some of the people in the back seat, in the back row, something like that. So that's really cool. Kiss is always trying to have a connection with the audience, which is really cool. Pophouse CEO Jessica Korovas, who joined the company in January 2026, has taken over for Per Sundin, who became Pophouse's president of music and artist relations. Pollstar spoke separately to Kiss founding members Simmons and Stanley, as well as Doc McGee, whose other clients have included Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, and the Scorpions. Wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't know. I knew Doc McGee did Bon Jovi, covered Bon Jovi. Didn't know about Motley Crue and the Scorpions. That's really cool. I was at Pollstar. I was at the final Kiss show at Madison Square Garden when the avatars were introduced. At that point, where did Pophouse and Kiss start regarding the planning of the upcoming Kiss show? Jessica Kravos, what the crowd got to see at Madison Square Garden was an early prototype of the Kiss Avatar concept. A lot has evolved since then, both in terms of creative concept for the show and Avatar technology. We are now deep in development with a top-flight creative team headed by Fury Coop. The team was on set last week testing out pyro effects against a new generation of LED screens to make sure we max out the Kiss signature flame throwing. That's really cool. And that they're kind of trying out new pyrotechnics under some new LED screens. That's really cool. Like, get to see it if the avatars when it's finished, the avatars kind of won't melt in some term. The show concept is a crazy 4D roller coaster ride for the hits, the comic book worlds, and personas of Kiss. Now, when I heard this from the article on Kiss Army Things, I felt like, that's cool. I mean, we're going through the hits, the comic book worlds that Kiss kind of did in the comic books, and the personas of Kiss. Like, I always felt like that these avatars were like another form of like the comic book characters in a sense. And that they're gonna just kind of take us all on a journey through that, along with the music and the personas. That's cool. That's cool. I like that. Doc, did you see ABBA Voyage, Doc McGee? Yes, I saw it years ago, like 4 times. It's what got me to go to Pophouse, the ability to make Kiss immortal and take them into the future. That's what everybody would want. It just was not previously possible or done correctly. This is totally real, photorealistic. It's hard to explain, but you'll fall into that. You fall into that. They're real and they're in front of you. Now, ours, because avatars is more advanced, and of course, Kiss is a different animal, so effects and different means of becoming in the show is mind-boggling. They've shown it to me, and I have no idea what they're talking about, but it's insane. All right. And this is one of the other questions that that Xander read on the podcast, and this is a really good question. Kind of tells you about what the Avatar concert plan is. What eras of Kiss will be represented? The current lineup, the Ace Frehley and Peter Criss lineup. And that's a really good question. And Gene says it's going to be the iconic face personas, the Demon, the Star Child, and so on. Who you want to place into that lineup is up to you. And I thought that was a really good thing to bring up, because I guess people were discussing that will the Avatars kind of focus on Ace Frehley, Peter Criss, or other eras, and Gene says it's going to be the 4 iconic personas who you want who you want to see, who you want to place into is totally up to you. While the spaceman's on stage, you can say Ace or Tommy. I feel like a lot of people are going to go with Ace. And the Catman, you'll probably, some people will put Peter Criss in that position. That's really cool. And the songs, Love Gun, Deuce, and the like, Paul Stanley, we will have all the classics for years, and some surprises. Alright. And here Gene says, you're going to get all that stuff, and also new songs. Wait, what? New? Exactly what that means. Written by us, we have songs done. And much like Xander, when I heard this news, I was like, hell yes. Because I've been wanting some new Kiss songs, new Kiss music throughout the years now. And while Samurai Song, I'm going to appreciate that song, I was kind of hoping that would not be Kiss's final song, which for a few years it kind of was. Because whenever I hear about new Kiss music coming out, it's always under the lines of like, well, why bother? Why should we do that? Well, why would we want to do that, basically? And that's kind of, I was like, well, it's a bummer, but they've always had that position for like a good while now, and I'm really glad that they kind of have some new songs. Now, what they mean by we have songs done, I don't know if that means the writing process is finished or they're actually fully recorded. That'd be really cool if they were actually fully recorded songs. If when they're coming out, that's kind of like it's kind of up in the air. Maybe they're trying to have the new music kind of go along with the Avatars, because ABBA did the same thing for their ABBA Voyage thing, so that'd be pretty cool. It seems you're doing some of this press a little too prematurely. It's foreplay. You don't just want to come breaking in and say, okay, here it is before a movie comes out. There's a trailer. It's the way things develop. I read that the Avatar show is one, a biopic of another, and a Kiss-themed experience a third. Is that still accurate? Correct. We have various tentpole projects that we mapped out alongside the Kiss team at the point of signing, including the Avatar show, a biopic which, I don't know if we're actually going to get the biopic or not. I mean, if it happens, cool, but if not, that's also cool. A documentary and other projects. We have Charlie's Angels, founder of Wonderland Sound, and MMCG, Charles Angels, founder of Wonderland Sound and Vision, and co-founder of Chaplin Studios, as director in charge of the biopic. With Mark Canton as a producer, it's in the process of being cast. Alright. What convinced the Kiss team that the Pophouse model would be right for them? They understood what we do is fundamentally different from a traditional catalog deal. We're not just collecting royalties, we're building a world around an artist's legacy, and they saw that Pophouse founder Bjorn, also a member of ABBA, was involved in partnering with Kiss. That connection with Bjorn is meaningful. What ABBA Voyage proved is that when you treat an artist's legacy with real creative ambition, fans respond. That is true. That's very true. Pophouse is a terrific bunch of entrepreneurial futurists. They did buy our makeup in the tunes, yes, but what they're deep into is planting seeds for the future to make it even bigger. I'll tell you what I mean, but the big move now is what we're calling as a place card, the avatars. And I think it's kind of cool that this is just like, this is not going to be like a permanent name, because, I'll echo what Xander said a little bit. The Kiss avatars just kind of seemed a bit kind of, not really what I would call like a cool name for something related to Kiss. I don't know what their name's going to be, but I hope, it's something that's kind of like, a cool name relating it to Kiss. It'll be less of a show and more of an experience, because as fantastic as virtual reality is, it fools your eyes, but your ears can hear what's going on around you. So if hypothetically you see a dragon that breathes fire into your face, visuals will give you that, but you won't feel the heat. So imagine all your senses are being attacked right now with the visuals. Alright, that's cool. Alright, Paul Stanley says, it'll be a true immersive experience that really magnifies the band and the iconic nature of what we've built for 50 years. It's very different from anything else that's been out there. It has really no connection to some of the experimental holograms that were tried in the past, which were really very primitive. This will be virtually seeing us. Avatar looks like me, not a cartoon or an art rendition. The great thing about being an icon is that you can stay young forever. Yeah, that's true in a sense. Although, like, as some people like Howard Stern and some other guys talked about, when Kiss is up in the costume and makeup, they look forever young. Which, even though the members of Kiss are aging, the makeup and the costume kind of makes them look younger in a sense, I guess. Whatever they meant by that. How is the Pophouse structure approach different between ABBA Voyage and the Kiss Avatar project? It's good to clarify that Pophouse's role with ABBA Voyage was a founding investor with ABBA Voyage, having its own dedicated production and creative team who brought that show to life. Kiss is its own beast. It's a very different creative challenge from ABBA Voyage, because the goal is not just a concert, but the fully immersive fantasy world of Kiss. What is consistent is our commitment to doing it right for the fans. I like hearing that. I like hearing that that Pophouse is trying to work on this whole Kiss Avatar project and just get it right for us, like the fans who actually who might consider going and seeing this Avatar show. I mean, at first when I saw the Avatars, like I said, I wasn't too sure what to expect, and so did a lot of the Kiss fans didn't know what to expect. So I feel like this is a cool thing that Pophouse is doing, and they're kind of letting Gene and Paul kind of play a really important role in all this stuff. So they're not backing away from this. They want to be up close and personal with these projects, which I kind of like that from Gene and Paul. They've always kind of wanted to be with up close personal with all these business stuff that they do for Kiss. That's really cool. What role do Gene and Paul have with the Pophouse Kiss show project? Are they allowed to perform live again as Kiss under the Pophouse agreement? This is kind of leading me into like the Vegas thing, but I'll read this first. Gene and Paul are Kiss and are the heart of everything we do. It is a true partnership, and we will collaborate closely on all the tentpole projects. It goes beyond the tentpole projects as we pull the band in for various activations, social content, like that unboxing of like the Kiss Dress to Kill box set showing off all the stuff a few months ago. That was really cool. or fan moments, they're still very much the faces of Kiss, and yes, they can still perform. We saw that firsthand at last year's Kiss Cruise, where they came back en masse and the fans' response said it all. Yes, so like it's cool that they're saying that Kiss can't still perform, but it's probably like last year. It's probably not going to be it's you won't get the makeup and all that stuff like you used to. It's just Kiss as Gene, Paul, Eric, and Tommy, which is really cool that they can still do that. Even like these little appearances, like the Vegas stuff. Like that's cool that they're kind of doing those. I always figured that the Kiss touring would stop, but not the Kiss cruises. That wouldn't stop. So it's kind of cool that we're still getting the cruises in a sense. It's all landlocked stuff, but it's really cool. It's really cool. Gene, you're from the old school rock and roll world. Do you feel that technology like AI and avatars could destroy all music and creation? Here's Gene. What did Gene have to say? It's such an interesting question, and I don't know that anyone has the answer. I don't know. I think we're all going to find out together, invariably in our cultures of the people, for the people, by the people. So they're going to decide, right? I mean, Xander said this last night, and so did his wife, but I'll kind of echo what they said, but in my own way. The AI question would have been like a perfect moment for Gene to kind of come off as a know-it-all and be all profound. But the cool thing about this was he didn't do it. He just flat out said, I don't know. This would have been a moment for him to do something like that, but he chose not to do it, and that's really cool. All he could say about AI and stuff like that is like, I don't know. I think we're all going to find out together. That's pretty much a cool thing to say. Paul, if Pophouse owns Kiss's likeness in the music, isn't it strange for you to sell the rights to your Star Child makeup and the band's music, but still be doing these projects? It's nothing that I ever anticipated, but the analogy of the bird flying the nest. We brought this band up for 50 years, people who can supplement and augment what you've done. You're only as good as our team. We are very, very fortunate in that we found people who, yes, bought the entity, so to speak, but in many ways they understand we're the heart and soul, and to have us not involved would be crazy. After 50 years, to their credit, we are still very much involved in the ongoing life of Kiss. It's very interesting because unlike other rock bands, we're not committed by their limitations. We're basically Superman with a guitar and a Marshall amplifier. Yeah, I've heard Paul mention this kind of in the past, they're Superman and stuff like that. That's kind of cool. That's really cool. Wait a minute. Right, the last question of the article. Gene, anything you'd like to add? The fans start to think about this as not the end of anything. This is a phoenix rising out of the ashes as a form of life. Caterpillars aren't very impressive, but they survive, and then it looks like they're dying as they go into a cocoon. But then you get a beautiful butterfly that sprouts wings and goes to places so above that the caterpillar would never imagine. This is not the end, this is the beginning. And I do like that. Gene uses the phoenix rising from the ashes line a bit. Does it a bit, but it's really cool that Pophouse and Kiss are still very much, Gene and Paul are very much involved in what Pophouse is doing with Kiss. So that's really cool. And yeah, this is not the end. Maybe the end of Kiss touring, but it's not the end, which is kind of what we all assumed. It would not just be the end of anything. Anyways, that's the article, and my thoughts on the article. I liked what I read. I like that that Pophouse is letting Gene and Paul be very much involved in the projects that they're doing. It's cool that even though they're not putting on the makeup and anything, we're still going to be able to see Kiss perform. You just got to go to Vegas to see it now for those landlocked cruises, which is still in itself is pretty cool that the cruises are continuing. About the biopic and the stuff like that. I've been hearing about the Kiss biopic for like a few years now, and now we're starting to cast it. I mean, like it took them quite a bit, but like I've said, if it happens, cool. If not, also cool. I'm not really expecting the biopic anymore as one of the things that Kiss is working on, and I'm not really expecting that to happen at this point. But anyway, so hope you guys enjoyed this topic. What do you guys think about this topic? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Next time, I'll see you around. See ya.